the recording?
Cool.
So you said you already have it, the latest VCO appliance, OVA or OVF.
Yeah.
I'll give you a USB key, so you can give it to me, and that way I don't have to spend time downloading it.
I see.
This one should be fairly innocent.
No comment.
All right, so this is probably a new format for vBrownBag, right? Because we're getting to sit down. This is really the perfect format for vBrownBag because we're sitting with someone who's going to guide us to help us learn something. So it just so happens that we're doing it live. And of course, no one is watching our screen, so they really can't know what we're doing. There's far bigger problems in the world. Onto my phone. Let's see. There. All right. So apart from a VCSA, what would you recommend we have? Maybe like a host?
Well, VCSA, the VRO appliance, and perhaps one ESX host.
Okay.
Should be good.
Cool.
I have all that.
You're already playing that you're the advanced student, aren't you?
Oh no.
No, I think I do have a VCSA in here. Yeah, I got a couple of virtual hosts.
It just helps that I have this all pre-built.
Yeah. Might be able to run everything. Slack and everything else. It's always funny when we're hosting vBrownBag and the person forgets to close everything, because we'll start tweeting saying this person or whatever.
Oh, it's bing, bing.
And bing bing, or some joke comes on the screen. All right. Were you able to copy that thing?
It's copied.
Is it ready? Is it ready?
No.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna check that I have a working VCSA, and we should be good.
Who said anything about it working? Who said that I have one?
2711. Right. That's my first host. .192.168.127.12, I believe. Is the second host.
Cannot wait till the HTML5 client's done.
Be nice.
I am being nice. I just said I can't wait. I do like the fact because they just released the updated
version, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay, JP just confirmed that he won't make it.
Okay.
So very good. And I'll just put my phone in priority view only.
30 seconds.
Where's the machine here? So 1 to 12. The good part is that everything I deploy, it has like root and VMware one exclamation.
Same as in the hands-on labs.
All my home lab, all my thing, my workstation stuff. Let's see if this one's. Thank you.
So are you gonna deploy it direct in the workstation?
I'll probably I have 2 virtual hosts. I'll probably deploy it to a host.
Because
So it's nested.
Yeah.
Nested.
right, because it doesn't pick up the OVF details.
Yeah,
Where
that's-
are you?
You can still finish the deployment, it just won't pick it up automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that out.
Yeah, there's all sorts of.
I'm just glad I could get it to work.
You remember when you challenged me to get a PSE working, like a standalone PSE working, and I couldn't get it to work.
Right, because it doesn't work. Not direct to workstation. If you do a combined, it works.
If you
fine.
do an embedded, yeah. All right, let's see. 192, 168, 127, 120.
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure they didn't really test that, because why would you ever?
Right, there's not that big of a use case. Still, you know.
Yeah. It's only someone like me that would do that.
Let's see. Alright, I'm going to deploy it to a host. This is VCO 7.3.
Wait, what?
What,
Oh, VRO 7.3, yeah.
VCO. VRO.
Yeah, that took me some time too.
No, but you know what? That person that you tagged yesterday, the web portal is called vcoportal.de.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's why
that's
I-
the old, yeah.
And that's why I
Same
stayed
as
with the
vcoteam.info, since we
Yeah,
we never
exactly.
changed the URLs for that.
Alright. So should be able to make it at 21. Let's do this thing. Application. So when deploying the appliance, I get this passwords and networking properties. I should go ahead and add them here, right? The initial root password.
Yes.
Do we need SSH to the appliance?
I would so, yeah.
Okay. I will call you vRo73.ariel.lab. And default gateway. This is a very interesting one. I don't remember. Servers would be the same thing. Does it have several networks? I see it's at, oh no, network on IP address and network.
Should be only one.
Yep. Okay. Brad, were you able to assist this session when he gave it at USICON?
I saw the second half of it.
Yeah. I saw a little at the beginning. Alright, I'm deploying. Pray to the gods that I didn't make a mistake and it actually pings.
It's actually easy enough to fix even if you did
Yeah.
that out the hard way.
But hey, you never know, you're dealing with me here.
Oh, I don't know. I did blow up that PSC deployment pretty well.
Yeah. Is there any particular thing that we should do with the vCenter where we want to log into the flash instead of the HTML5, or we're basically only working with the appliance?
I think we are only working with the appliance. Cool. Yeah. You usually, well, you get access to the whole vCenter inventory in Orchestrator, on the inventory tab in Orchestrator. So you can see your results of the workflows that you are building there as well. Okay. Virtual machines created, for example, whatever. But of course, if you're used to work with the vSphere web client, or be it the old Flash-based or the new HTML5 one, you might want to have that open in background as well, because then you can see all the tasks that VRO triggers in vCenter. If you do some reconfigurations or whatever, so it's good to validate that your workflows are doing something.
Anytime you run a task in VRO, is that one like service account that gets logged in vCenter, or can you pass through credentials?
You could pass through credentials. So most of the plugins in VRO, the plugins are there to connect VRO to external endpoints to automate them. And typically, of course, you have to authenticate against them. And most plugins support it that you can either do a per user session, that means whoever logs into VRO, these credentials are get passed through to the end system. The other thing is typically, and that's in most cases the better way to do it, is to have a shared session, so that you define one service account, how VRO uses to connect to vCenter to, I don't know, your database, your firewall, or whatever you want to automate from VRO.
That's crazy.
It usually has better performance, and it allows you to use what Orchestrator is used for, because then you can abstract the permissions. If you do a per user session, then for whoever eventually will start a workflow, you would have to create the credentials and the permissions in that end system as well. So if you have open up, I don't know, in a vRealize automation environment, you have hundreds of possible users that request services from the service catalog, and some of them are firewall as a service. You would have to open up your firewall to for these users, and that's not what you want. That's the reason why this, you can use Orchestrator, or from that perspective, Orchestrator also can act as an abstraction for the authentication and as a proxy. And
is logging, does VRO have a good login into who did stuff? Because normally companies will come back and they will not want a service account doing stuff. So they want to be able to say, okay, this person kicked this workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. So for that you have, first of all the workflow executions are stored in the VRO database. So you have a very good history of who started what workflow, what outcome of the workflow succeeded or failed. And you also have, in addition to that, regular syslog logging that VRO does for all the workflow executions, and you can find the same information in there. In addition, all the log messages that your workflows might write out to the log files. And we have a very good integration, of course, with LoginSide, so it's more or less a one-click configuration to tell VRO to send all the syslog logs to LoginSide, and we have very good out-of-the-box content packs for LoginSide that allow then already an operator to see how many workflows executions you had, what workflows, which workflows get executed how often. If something failed, you get one mouse click to see all the logs from that specific workflow execution only. So it's really some very good, brings a lot of value.
Okay, you have LoginSide with it.
Just for the out-of-the-box thing. So I typically, whenever people start with Orchestrator, I always recommend them also to use LoginSide.
Good. All right, I got pings, which is phenomenal.
Okay. It might take a while.
Yeah. But at least when I went to the web page, it immediately tried to do /VCO. So.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's what coming up. I got two hosts, and one of them has some VMs, so we should be fine. that's my vCenter is already running. And it seems my VRO appliance is up. Perfect. You do have Java 8 on your machine?
What?
Java 8?
Yes.
Okay. So we should be able to start. So this is the first time I log into this interface. I see options for start Orchestrator client, download the Orchestrator client, configure Orchestrator server, develop with Orchestrator server. Where should I start?
So the first thing would be, well, I guess to do a basic configuration of Orchestrator.
Okay.
Do you want to open a Zoom session and record your screen? Which brings in so much more effort for post-production.
No, and that's fine. I may have to download. I mean, I think Zoom can do that. I can probably run the Zoom client for that. So let's say I start without video, and I join my computer, so the audio gets recorded, and I tell it record on this computer. All right, excellent. All right, so back here again.
Okay. Yeah. So for the first configuration, I think
You want to join this?
makes sense.
Well, no, I'll just
It's over
watch.
there.
I think I've already done this.
Okay. Were you able to log into your Orchestrator afterwards?
Yeah, so I went in through there and I actually came to adjust it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So that's the first thing to do. Alternatively, I guess you could just download the client and use the built-in authentication, but you want to join it to the center. So that's the control center.
Here?
Yep. Okay. That's a web-based interface that allows you to configure Orchestrator instances or clusters.
So this should be.
First time it's root login, right? And once you connected it to vCenter SSO, there's role-based access control to the control center. So that means you log in with your vSphere credentials.
I see what happened.
Keyboard layout.
What's your password?
Okay, and there you get the selection if it's a standalone one or if you hit the drop-down field, if it should be a cluster.
So they can be clustered.
You need to take a standalone one. With the clustered one, it would allow you to just copy the configuration of another node in the cluster, for example. And in our case, we
So if you were going to do a cluster, would you do the first one as standalone, or every additional one?
Okay.
Now for the host name, I do have a host name for it, so should I put it here?
Yeah, it should get it automatically. If you do have,
We don't have DNS here, so that's
okay. Then keep
that's
the
why it is.
IP. Okay.
Okay. So next here.
The next button, and now you can define if you want to connect it to either VRA, vRealize automation, or vCenter server, or authentication. And that authentication that's important to understand is how users log into Orchestrator itself. It's not yet related to how Orchestrator will connect back to VRA or vCenter or any other external system. Later, of course, if you want to use Orchestrator to connect to VRA, for example, then you have to configure the plugin. And if you want to do that with the user authentication, both are combined, but for now, it's just how people log into the appliance itself to Orchestrator. Okay.
So in this case, I'm choosing vSphere, and I'll grab this. This is my vCenter over here. So.
There, and
You think I need anything in particular, or just the IP?
just the IP. Good.
Certificates.
Certificates. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. In my case, it's embedded, but yes, that's a good observation.
Yeah.
I hit that. The deployment.
Right.
They actually have us see
Yeah, and for this one, right.
Oh, so just administrator here instead of since it already has a tenant.
No, you use the whole thing. So it's registered with vCenter then. You still have to authenticate. Put it complete. Oh yeah.
It's a wee bit.
Okay. And then the next step is to define which user group from your PSC environment should be administrator group in vRO.
So you could probably, I mean, in my case,
one thing I found is you can actually search from that screen, and it'll actually show you all.
It'll show you all of them.
Just
press an A for some elements, or
considering this is all running on the same SSD,
yeah,
it's taking way too long.
Yeah.
All right.
So usually pick these for local administrators. So for a simple installation, you then will be able to use the administrator at vSphere.local.
Would you say in an enterprise environment that's typical, or it's actually not recommended at all?
Well, in an enterprise environment, typically your vCenter PSC is connected to an Active Directory or any other directory service, and then you define the groups there. And for your Orchestrator admin group, once your PSC is connected to a domain, you will see all the domain groups there as well.
All right.
Okay.
Lots of settings have opened up.
Lots of settings you opened up. That's good. So that's now all the configuration settings that are available for vRO. For now, I think at the beginning, the most interesting ones would be the licensing one. That's where you either provide a vCenter connection and takes it from vCenter, which was the default thing.
Do I have to do something?
No, you don't have to do something.
Okay.
If you click down there, you could also put in a so-called manual license, and it just expects a vCenter license key.
All right.
And the other
is there like a vRO enterprise different licensing?
No.
Okay.
So far, it's all the same license. The only license, I think, with the smaller vCenter version, so vCenter or vSphere Essentials.
They don't include vRO, so you would have
vCenter. What's the vCenter name? There's some vCenter.
Robo or no? There's
not for Robo. There's some very
I think small ones.
For that you can get orchestrated just in layer mode. Right. Yeah. For that you orchestrate this in layer mode, so you cannot develop new workflows. You can just run them. Cool. Okay. The other important thing you might need eventually soon in the config here is the plugin section, which allows you to install plugins.
And you would download these from?
You would download these either from the VMware homepage, from the product downloads, or from, depending on where the plugin comes from. You might get it from like InfoBlocks for IPAM or whatever. They get you the plugin file, or many of the plugins also are published in the community section. So go to the VMTM forums communities, and there's a document section there. You also can find typically technical preview versions of the plugins, which might be newer and have some more bug fixes than the one that are being shipped with the appliance. That's just because of the release cycles. Okay, so once this is loaded, not sure why it's that slow. Laptop is started to run the fan. Okay, so you can see a lot of the plugins come already with Orchestrator out of the box. but of course you can install more plugins. Plugins get shipped as single files, ending .emo app or .tar, and then when you scroll up again, you just browse it in your directory and then hit the upload button, hit a more, you see the version and maybe some license agreement, and then you hit the install button.
So a lot of them are already labeled.
They're all of them are per default enabled. You could disable them, and you always have to restart Orchestrator, and then it just does not get loaded. More interesting might be the log level. If you have some errors with particular plugins, you can increase the log level or
This
messages.
looks like syslog.
Yeah. And these are technically Orchestrator runs on a Java platform. So the logging mechanism is the standard log4j library or framework that Java applications use. These log levels are the same. So you could even, when it comes to login, but that was more important in the past, not so important these days anymore. You could define, of course, the different log levels for different plugins, and then in the log configuration even specify different destinations for different log sources and log levels. But that's something you don't only use in very, very rare situations where you really are a plugin developer and you want to debug just your plugin code. So usually that's not needed for any user of.
Okay. Should I go back home?
Yes. And I just want to show you the last one, which is the logging integration one. And if you would select that button, you can enable it, and then you just don't save. You can see
the
login site, and then
just send the IP, and that's it.
Login site server, and then that's done.
Very cool.
Yeah. Of course, it also it's syslog, so you can send it to any other syslog server as well.
It says deprecated there.
That's just for the library that is used to send the log messages.
Okay.
But you still log inside, and syslog are very compatible.
Okay. I noticed there's a way to manipulate the database. Is the database already running at this point?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't need to do anything.
Don't
Because you remember there used to be some things where you install it and then you had to.
In older versions, architectures, you might have had an external database for Orchestrator, and then you have to configure it here. But nowadays,
Appliance
the 7 version appliance model database ships with Orchestrator.
Okay, so very cool. My Orchestrator appliance is running.
Yeah, ready.
So now should I come in here and
exactly now
download the Orchestrator?
Mm-hmm. So for Orchestrator, it now runs as a service on the appliance, Java-based service, and you need to connect to it with a Java-based client, which either runs as direct web start, or you can Java web start, or you download it and install it. But it's the same bits and bytes, so it's the same functionality, just a different way how Java would start. If you download it, it's a zip file. You extract that, and then
you said the same thing that the website says that to install it. As far as I can tell, that just runs as a little standalone app.
Right. There's no real installer. It's a zip file you extract it, and it comes as exe. So it's all.
So should I run this exe right now?
Yeah.
And this does depend on Java 8 being installed.
Right. Okay, sure. It does not work with Java 9.
Requires a Java runtime 1.8. May not have it then. La 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 la.
You have 1.9, then it's.
Yeah.
I would recommend you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but it's the same. You need Java 8 even for the Java web start.
Either way.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes with the high API screen.
Yeah.
And all the Java libraries.
Yeah, that's
Wait, what about the IDPI?
Okay. Then it might already be fixed. So in some versions, if you use the exe file, the installable one, it gets tiny.
Yeah, and you have to bring it down.
It's really nice because you can create big workflows and just see them, but everything. But there is a parameter when you do the Java web start. You cannot fix that for the exe file, but in the Java web start, it downloads a JMLP file, so you can configure the runtime environment. And then there is one parameter setting with I don't know, deactivate automatic resolution, something like that.
So, Joerg, how do you like Pittsburgh? While we wait for this. Sorry.
I really love it, to be honest. But I might be a bit biased because I came here with excellent weather. Yeah.
No, this is not good weather. Wait till summer.
Weather, and then
summer is beautiful.
Excellent weather, so.
So he went to Connecticut right when the storm hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually, did you see this on Twitter that he had to Jake Robinson, the Power CLI?
I saw in the car. Yeah.
We had a very good drive, a lot of fun.
Let's see if this runs now. Yay. Yeah. Well,
it might also have to do something with your system level settings.
Right. So number one, I'm also running Windows 7.
Yes. Yeah.
So that
might be a difference.
Let me run this to 100% and then run it in like a 1920 by 1080.
I wonder what Zoom recording.
Oh.
And you have close it and restart it, and I'm not sure if it still will. Yeah, that's Java overwrites the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, then
this would be a great test for Zoom, right?
Right. If you can use Zoom to zoom in.
Are you saying you have bad eyes?
No. You get a lot of screen space, so if you develop workflows in that way, it's not so much fun for the coding part, but for the drag and drop part, you can create things.
All right, so
let's fix it and use the other one.
Use the web one.
Yeah.
Because it appears to be the exact same web interface, but as long as he does the parameters.
Yeah, I know.
I should be able to see stuff.
All right, so you say here, start Orchestrator client?
Yes. And then it downloads the JNLP file, and you edit, keep it, and instead of starting it, you have to edit the JNLP file. Of course, I don't know the exact parameter in mind, but if you Google for Java and HDPI,
Java,
HDPI, JNLP, Bankerman. Literally just the first one. So that's not an orchestrator issue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Java issue. Yeah, this property line. Just a single line. Copy that. And then paste it somewhere in the resources.
See, we're learning a lot here.
Yeah. You check back to the article that we can see if it's. Yeah, it's in the resources. Okay. And then save that one. Yeah, close it, minimize it, whatever. This will be useful.
All right, so let's try it again.
Download, you have the JNLP file and start that now. Launch the first one. Really, Java Web Launcher. Okay. Let's see if that was the right one. Okay, continue. So that's one.
I need to add it into the safe sites and all those things.
I don't think so. If you get the warnings. So if you agree with the warnings, then you should be fine.
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Okay, and now you should be able to log in with administrator at.
So it even downloaded the IP address and stuff.
Right, because that's where where it downloaded the appliance.
I am learning so much. Cool beans. There's a port 8281.
Yeah, that's the port where Orchestrator is running. If you download a VRA appliance and use the embedded orchestrator that comes with the VRA appliance, the port is 443. Because on the VRA appliance we have a reverse proxy. And the proxy takes care of forwarding it to the right place.
All right,
okay,
so I see you are in server mode.
So that means it's fully licensed. You can edit workflows and go crazy develop here.
Okay. And if it didn't have that, then it would be like a read-only mode. Player mode. Okay. Cool. Now this is where
we actually
This is where we actually don't know what to do here.
Okay. This is as far as I got. Yeah, then let's walk you through. So up here we have the VRO client. You put it back to a window that because there's some stuff hidden in between. Sure, yeah. So in the VRO client, first of all, it has different views. So if you use that drop down here, you can see there is a run view, a design view, and a minister view. The only thing that really changes are the tabs here in the main navigation that are available on the left-hand side. Some of them are the same. So if you have the workflow tab, that's literally the same in all the just different option. There is also for the client, there is a refresh button, which is
You should come on this side.
yeah. Following. Okay, so there is the refresh button.
Do you want me to add you so you can see whatever we're doing? See if I can just add you. I don't know.
Just go to the invite and tell him the meeting ID. If you go to zoom.us,
I'll pause this.
okay. So there's that small refresh button, which is helpful if you have some workflows that are typically being triggered from external systems, like workflows being triggered by VRA. Then they might not in real time show up in your workflow list. And there's also a quick navigation button.
Go here because just remember that you said that some things may show up. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll keep that in the
later.
background.
Yeah, okay. So then there's the small navigation forward-backward button, which is very convenient if you have one big workflow and you double-click into the workflow element that it calls the other workflow, and then you go through the tree. You can do forward-backward navigation. And there's the tools menu where there's the API Explorer.
Is that RESTful API or the old APIs?
No, that's
Or
API Explorer
VRO.
is from the plugins. So that's not the API of Orchestrator. Welcome.
Welcome to the meeting.
So that's not the Orchestrator REST API itself, but that is the plugin API, or the API that the plugins provide. So if you open that up, we can see it, the API Explorer. You will then scroll down here. You will see all the some server components, and then if you scroll back more to the very end, you can see all the installed plugins and the data types and objects they bring in. So, for example, the vSphere plugin brings the whole vCenter API in there. The REST plugin brings in the REST host and the REST operation and so on. So the API Explorer in VRO shows you the objects that your workflows deal with and the JavaScript objects that you have available. The other API, but that's a good thing. Can you go back to your Orchestrator splash screen browser? I think it was that one. Yeah. If you go to develop with the Orchestrator server, then you can see there is a REST API documentation. And this one is Swagger-based REST API documentation, and that's the one for northbound integration. So that's Orchestrator's REST API itself that can be used by other systems to start workflows, I don't know, import packages, schedule workflows, monitor the workflow executions, and so on. So you can see all the different services and functionality that is available.
Very cool.
Workflow controller, I don't know, you can get a list of all the workflows. Then if you have the execution,
delete a workflow.
yeah, you can get the execution control. It's typically a post to the workflow with a workflow ID, and then you can start a workflow via the REST API. We do have, since we are talking for the REST API, if you Google for GitHub VRO client, Brett Burke, one of the guys from vCOteam.info, the great blog, has put up a bunch of examples for client scripts that call Orchestrator from different programming languages, Python, Perl, and so on. So that's a good starting point if you want to automate VRO itself. Very cool. Okay.
Okay.
I would say let's go back to the client here. Okay, in this tools menu, there's also one thing most people are not aware yet. There's the user preferences tab. It's just some settings where you can define the behavior of the plugin of the client. So that's not related to any server settings, but just how the VRO client should behave. So you hit the workflows section, you can define if workflows shall automatically be validated, if version should increase. You can, in the script editor, change the behavior of the JavaScript editor to add some, I don't know, different colors or whatever.
Are those preferences like just for this session, or like
just
the next time I log in, do I have to reset them?
No, they are just for for your orchestrator, the local one on the client that is installed or used on your system.
So in this case, that I run it from a JNLP file.
I think they're still there because they store it locally in the user profile.
Right. But, but if you were to then go to a different computer login.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
A very important question that I just thought
Yeah.
of. Can I just grab this JNLP file that I modified so it doesn't do the high DPI and use it always, or do I have to download a fresh one?
No, you can reuse it. Yeah, absolutely. The only thing in the JNLP file is linked to the orchestrator server.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a start file, so that bits and bytes will always be downloaded from that server.
Yeah.
It will be available. But if you take it to a complete different environment, you just edit the URL and put the other.
And if we upgrade the appliance, you probably want to grab a fresh one.
Right. So the client is very tightly coupled from a version perspective. They are not backward compatible. So that means if you have a VRO 7.2, you need a 7.2 client. If you have a 7.3 VRO, you need a 7.3, and you cannot connect with 7.3 to a 7.2 server.
Sounds good.
So if you do that more often, you end up with 5 different JNLP files with 4 different versions.
All right, so let's go ahead and do something useful. Let's
first
see
of all, first of all, in the we are in the design view, which is meant for workflow developers. We can, if you go to that most right-hand tab, that's the so-called inventory. Orchestrator inventory means these are all the endpoints that connect Orchestrator to systems that you want to automate, that you can automate with your workflows. The inventory is completely provided by the individual plugins. So if you remember, we saw on the configuration page the different plugins that are installed, and these plugins are responsible for filling up that inventory. It means connecting Orchestrator and the workflows to these different endpoints. Right now, we have all the different plugins installed, but most of them should be quite empty. So if you open up some of them, I don't know, the directory, open it up, it's empty. Put the vCenter open up, it's empty, because right now there's nothing configured. So that means you have to configure these plugins to connect to the different endpoints. And that now depends on the plugin developer. Most of the plugins bring configuration workflows with them.
All right, so let's say I want to connect to my vCenter.
Right, that's exactly the next step. So we'll go back to your workflows. You can also see, well, in the workflows, there is you have a tree structure. You can create your own folders. You want to build your workflows and structure your workflows. The ones that come with the plugins are typically stored underneath the library folder. If you build your own, I would recommend to put them in different folders so that you can separate them from the ones that are bundled, but technically it does not matter. So workflows themselves, they all have a unique ID. They're always defined or identified by their ID. So it does not matter where in the workflow tree they are located. You can easily move them around and so on. So for the library, we can see we have for all the different plugins a lot of different workflows available. And for vCenter, there is one for vCenter.
A lot of folders in here, yeah.
Most of them, well, depending on the plugin, they might bring a huge list of example workflows or building block workflows for individual tasks that you then can reuse in your other different systems. And well, for vCenter, there are a lot of tasks available, so we have, I don't know, several hundred workflows perhaps in there. Important at the beginning, mostly you see a configuration folder there, and that's where the workflows for create, read, update, delete connections are in there. Okay. In this case,
each time a workflow response, should it connect to the vCenter as the first thing it does?
It does it automatically. So that behavior, again, it depends on the plugin, how the plugin developer wants to manage the connection to the endpoint. In the vSphere situation, if you use a shared session, we will see that in a second, then the plugin takes care of connecting to vCenter and keeping that connection up to date. It does a lot of caching for performance reasons, so it's completely hidden from the workflow developer. You don't have to care about it, and you don't have to always put a login section into your workflow. That wouldn't make sense. Okay, then let's pick the first one to add a vCenter instance. And that's the workflow. So to start a workflow, you either right-click and run the workflow, or you hit that small run button up here. Okay, that starts the workflow, and you can see workflows might have input parameters. So these input parameters, they show information, variables, data points that the workflow needs to run successful. In our case, we need the hostname, SDK, that's okay. We'll orchestrate and keep that as a yes. We're going to ignore certificates warnings. Yes. Next step, and then now, if you read that, that's now the separation between a single shared session or a per user session. In our case, we want to have a unique session, so select the no one, and then also the domain goes away. So now just use your service account.
Super crazy.
Super crazy. And that's just for convenience. There are other plugins that come with, like for storage management, and they technically have different API endpoints. You could configure them manually afterwards for each of the vCenters. That's just sort of convenience for you. That does it for you.
Submit?
Yeah, and submit. And let's see what happens. You can see a lot of important things here, what happens. So first of all, you can see that there is a new element underneath the workflow. So an orchestrator, that's also relates to the question you asked before. Very, very important. The workflow itself is just a definition of the workflow. What should happen? What tasks have to be automated? And whenever you start a workflow, the workflow engine will create a new so-called workflow token or execution context for this individual instance. And that's exactly what you can see in the tree view underneath here. And when you run the workflow 2 times or 10 times, you will see 2 or 10 different workflow tokens. And it stores in the Orchestrator database all the information, all the parameters you put in, and the state, if it was successful, not successful, some log messages, whatever, runtime timestamps, stores it in the database. So you get a very, very good history of who ran what workflow at what time with what outcome.
And I see the check mark here saying that it probably ran successfully.
One important thing, since we run into that, very confusing for a lot of people, depending on your screen resolution and the screen size, if you hit the button in here and drag and drop that up, you can see a lot of more information than before. So for the workflow token, you can see in the general tab all the information, if it was successful, so the state, times. But the interesting part is the variables tab. That now shows all the information that you put in, and the ones that are calculated to be used between the different workflow elements, which is a very, very, very helpful thing, because that gives you a real history of what information the workflow worked with while it was running. So if you have a complex workflow that runs 10 times and it fails in 2 situations, then you can use this variables view to compare, well, these were the variables where it ran successful, these were the ones where it was failing, so to figure out why it helps you for debugging. Cool. And for the logs, if the workflow provides some logs for the different levels, info, usually info or debug, the log messages will show here as well. These are the log messages, important to understand, that go into the log file or sent to login site. They are not stored in the VRO client, so they are just read from the log file. So if you want to see that for maybe workflows that ran a few days back, the log files might have been rotated, and they don't show up here. If they don't show up for newly created workflow, check the time settings, so that your times are in sync from the Orchestrator client or the system where the client runs on to your server.
That is an excellent thing, because I did not see where to set that up.
That's VAMI configuration. So you connect to 5480. I think since you run it on workstation, it will by default pick up the workstation time.
No, I ran it into a virtual host.
Okay. Your virtual host.
No, but I can probably tell it here.
Yeah.
To go ahead.
I think it's in the admin tab.
Actually, pick it up from
time settings. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, use host type. Perfect.
Check the 19 UTC.
Enabled. No. Use host type. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's using the host type, and this all of this environment is running inside the same computers. Mm-hmm. But it's important to show where you change this. Mm-hmm. Cool beans. Let's go back.
Okay. Ready. So now we connected the Orchestrator server, the vCenter plugin of the Orchestrator server, to talk to vCenter. That means if we now go back to our inventory screen, it's just at the most right-hand side, yeah, and hit the refresh button here, or the other one up here, doesn't matter.
I get a connection.
You got a connection, and if you open up that connection and your credentials were right, then you can see you now have full access to the whole inventory of your vCenter. Cool. All the virtual machines, data stores, everything is in there. And these are now the objects, these inventory objects are now the objects that your workflows can shuttle with or can automate and work with. Very, very cool. For vCenter, well, it's the same. It uses this vCenter API. So if you use, for example, PowerCLI connected to that vCenter server, and do a get VM, you would get the same list of VMs, obviously, the same inventory. And one important thing, if you deal a lot or if you work a lot with the vSphere API, and so on your setting, if we can show that, you will see there is a tool on vCenter that runs on vCenter called the Managed Object Browser.
Yes.
And that is something just want to show for completeness, if we can see it here, because that's very helpful as well. So if you open up a new tab.
Well, it's like HTTPS /MOB.
MOB, right. You have to log in with the credentials. Some high secure environments, it might not be activated.
I remember deactivating it as part of securing down the vCenter.
Hardening, but I think the default is. Yeah. So that Managed Object Browser, it's independent from any tools like VRO or PowerCLI. It just is a HTML-based visual representation of the API, the vCenter API. So it provides sort of a clickable view through the inventory and through all the methods and objects that are in that specific vCenter. It's quite helpful because when you deal either with PowerCLI or with VRO or any other Python API or whatever you use to call out to vCenter, you work with the same objects. And with the mob, you can click through what you later want to automate. It's really, really helpful. If you go to the content here, just to show you, you can see all these different managers. If you have some experience with the vSphere client or the vSphere web client, you can see, of course, the web clients, or regular vSphere UI uses the same API. Some more, some less, but it uses the same API. So there, if you configure licenses, there is a license manager there. If you, I don't know, want to see the tasks, there is a task manager there, and so on and so on. And there's one thing, if you go back, really to, so it's the service content. And then if you scroll down, there's a root folder setting, a root folder attribute here. This one, the group D1. That's your access to the inventory. And that is it now exactly the same view that you have here for top root or data center 2 with the managed object ID 2. And all the data stores and then the host folder and VM folder. That's exactly the same as in your Orchestrator inventory. If you
see that
you can see your
going
3
to my VMs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. If you go back to Orchestrator, through the exact same structure. So the service connection is the one that connects to your thing. And if you then go to the data centers folder, your VDC data center, you click on that one. You see in the you can see data center 2, same managed object ID there. Yeah. All connect to the same thing, which is really helpful because well, you can click through these pages, and just to show you for later, let's do that right now. Go back to the managed object browser, select one of the virtual machines, the first one. Yeah. So that represents now a virtual machine with the ID VM12. Usually, you don't have to care about the IDs too much, but the thing is that all these properties that you can see here are exactly the properties how they are named for these objects. So no matter if you are using JavaScript in VRO to access these objects, or in PowerCLI, a lot of stuff is wrapped into direct parameters. But if you use the getView or extension data stuff in PowerCLI, you get access to the same API set. So, for example, if you want to figure out what IP address this virtual machine has, it's runtime information. So you have to check that there is a runtime in there, and then you can click on that. And then there's a runtime, and it's a functionality.
There's a lot of
power state, a lot of things in there.
Wow, we're looking at how the whole thing is organized.
Right.
You can look at the CPU ID.
You can see on which host it is running and so on. And if you go back, I think instead of runtime, there's also a guest info. Yeah, here for the guest info, which comes from the VMware tools. And then you can see here there's guest and then IP address in there. And if we
the hostname that I gave it.
Right. Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so in theory, it should be the same thing if I go to the VM right here.
Yeah. Some of the data is shown here as well. That's not an extensive list. That's just for you to see some details. But typically, Orchestrator is to automate. So whatever you see here is just for your convenience during development. Typically, you don't have to deal with that because the workflow takes care. Very cool.
All right.
Good. Then let's do something.
Yes. Let's say I want to create a new VM. Now I know a new VM has a lot of parameters. So if you have a better small thing that we can do.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get started with that. That's good fun. So let's go back to the workflows. Yeah. And let's see what we have in the library. So vCenter already comes with a lot of workflows, and there is virtual machine management, and then in basic there is a create simple virtual machine workflow, which is you get a create custom virtual machine, which has a lot of input parameters that reflect all the bells and whistles and parameter settings, quite the same as you can do in the vSphere client. Yeah, the regular vSphere client.
I just have one question. When we ran this, what's the name of this? You mentioned a token, but what is this screen that I'm seeing here? What exactly am I looking at?
That's the so-called schema, the workflow schema. So that's the structure of the workflow, which tasks are in there.
So can I count this as a start?
The green one is the start.
Yeah, it was green. Combine host and PO.
That's a scriptable task, which does something. We will see that in a second.
Can I click it and view it?
Well, remember, you are in a workflow token. So a workflow token just takes the definition and shows the execution. But you can, if you double click on that, it will jump back to the workflow definition. And then you can see the element is selected, and you have all the details for that element. So if you go to the scripting task, you see the JavaScript, what happens in that element. And important, you can see the in and out parameters.
With a description.
Or this individual element with their descriptions.
Cool. Now, what am I looking up in here? So for each, it's literally for each one of these things that I gave it. This one doesn't have a script. So this is a so this is a script. This is a workflow.
That's it's a for each it's a wrapper for a workflow. It's loops for workflow. If you go back to the info tab, there's a not change workflow, but in a workflow that tells you which one it calls. So library configuration SSL to import the certificate, and it uses as an input an array of strings with the URLs that you want to connect to, and then loops through that array. That's how the for each element works.
So at some point, I will have to create my own little scripts, and I will
very likely you will have to type JavaScript.
Register. Cool. At least you get a lot of examples. And what is this like? We're done?
So that's the end, yeah. Okay. For the end, as you can see there, workflow is always linear, I guess, yeah. So it has a single start point, and then fixed definition where it goes. You can use decision elements to branch it up based on the condition, but it always goes exactly one path, and then it ends up, but always has to have an end. So if you get open ends, then you will get a warning or an error that you cannot run the workflow. The end is either a regular end, and the workflow ends successful, or one with the exclamation mark in there, or so-called exceptions. So that means if something goes wrong, then the workflow will take this way, the exception path here, and it will fail with an exception, and you can see that.
Now, if at this moment, can I tell that this ran successfully or no? It will be until here.
Right. Exactly.
And I can see that it started, and I see that it finished because I see that green thing here. Otherwise, it would mark this closer. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
And it's more fun to watch if you have a workflow. I mean, that ran for a few seconds. We will later see one that we might be able to build one where we can see a more complex one. We exactly can see that.
Okay, and we have the event saying started, completed. If there was an error, it will show up here, etc.
As well.
Cool. All right, so let's go to that create a simple virtual machine. And I see this one. First thing I notice is it goes down instead.
But that doesn't matter. That's just history. All the versions top down. Now with all the CinemaScope screens that we have, it's from left to right. But it doesn't matter. And you will see more complex workflows. You typically use both directions.
All right.
So that's a more or less rather simple workflow because, it just does one task. It creates a virtual machine, which is one API call in vCenter.
Okay.
Can we go to vCenter
Yes.
and just right-click on a host or your cluster?
Oh, this cluster really doesn't have.
Just right-click. I don't want to do anything. Just right-click and then select a new virtual machine one and a new virtual machine. Because I want to show you, if you do that manually in the client, you have a bunch of options and input parameters. So you can, it's convenient to do it from a template, but we want to create a net new virtual machine from scratch. So that's the first one. And then it has a bunch of parameters in there. You need to provide a name, a location in the VM folders. You go to the next one, you have to create or select a host, a data store, and so on, and some information, and so on and so on. So just remember that one, because these information, they are part of the vCenter API. So no matter if you use the client, the vCenter client to create a new virtual machine, or you use a new VM commandlet in Power CLI, or you use the workflow, you always have to provide that information that's needed for vCenter to create a new virtual machine. Okay, let's run this workflow. So again, right-click, start the workflow.
This as would be a different user?
As a different user, yeah. Very, very rarely. Now you can see here, some input fields that are quite comparable. Name that one. We are going to create more of them. Okay, then next step, it's quite exactly the virtual machine folder. So that's the inventory of vCenter in the VM folder tree, and then select either the topmost one or discovered or whatever it is. Then size, small one, I guess. You can select that there are info version, so it shouldn't matter for now. Install something in there. Okay. For the guest, important part for the guest OS, that's now a parameter, more like an enumeration, because there are different variants available for all the different Windows and Linux ones. So you can either try to search for that in the search box, or if you don't see it, then just hit the enter button. just hit the enter button and we get the complete list. But the thing is, these are the technical enumerations.
How many times you do it, it's not going to be there.
So these are the technical labels, how they are called in the vCenter API. Then they are make this provisioned. It's okay. And then that's now where it should be located. You can see in the selectors where you can select the inventory items. Some very important things to notice. So these selectors are too fast.
Sorry. Let me see if I can.
Yeah. So these selectors call out to the plugin, of course, and open up the plugin inventory. And you can see in the title bar what
You have
object type VC host system
you're looking
it
for.
expects. That's important. And then when you click through them,
here.
on the right-hand side, you can see what type you select. So if you go to the cluster is not a host system. Select a cluster here. It's a cluster compute resource. You're looking for a host. Select button is grayed out. Important when you think about the different folders between host folder, VM folder, and so on. Okay. Select that. And then, for the data store.
This will be a fun one because I don't think
It's resource pool. Yeah, you don't have a resource pool. That's what you think.
that's what you think. But there's always one.
Yeah.
I'm looking for resource pool. This is a resource pool.
Exactly. Upmost one. Network. That's, by the way, for network. Tricky part at the beginning. It's different if it's a regular
BSS or VDS.
standard switch, then it's VM network. If it's a distributed switch, it's a DV port group, something object type. This workflow just supports the regular ones. But there is, on the left-hand side, create a simple DV port group virtual machine. Exactly the same, just allows you to select the distributed port group. And then the data store.
Cool. I don't have next. I apparently have a submit.
Yep. Submit. Let's see what happens. You can see, go to the schema tab. You can see the workflow is running, and it's currently in that action state. We saw it for a second. Okay.
Yeah.
So it took some time in here.
And I do see that a recent task came out here.
Exactly, to create a new virtual machine. And we have our Brad 1 virtual machine.
And especially we have an initiator here.
Yeah. So that's now the one not the one necessarily you logged into Orchestrator. In our case, they are the same, but, could be different. That's the discussion that we had before.
All right. So let's say I design and I use these things, and I'm very good at creating them. If I want my little brother to use the workflows that I designed for him, like I guess I'm going way up to the front. But apart from having this console that I can deploy workflows from, how else can Orchestrator be used in the sense of can I create workflows for other people to use?
So for that, you have to get them out of your Orchestrator server and package them up. For that, we have the package functionality. You go up to that small box thingy.
And it doesn't matter that we're on here, right?
Doesn't matter, no. You can see there are a lot of packages installed. They can come with the plugins, but you can also create a new package. Just right-click somewhere in the here, or use the button, and create package, add package, sorry, and give it a name. It doesn't matter the name; it's just a sort of convention that follows the Java naming scheme. Or not. But as I mentioned, it does not matter. Okay, so the package is just a list. Contains more or less pointers to objects that you have in your workflow library. Workflows, actions, which are small JavaScript
So anything
parts.
I export out of this workstation instance, Orchestrator instance, will depend on whatever I had installed.
Right.
And it's meant to run.
We will see that in a second. Okay. So if we
is it everything that's installed, or I mean,
right.
but not necessarily everything.
Right.
You just don't use something.
True.
So you could tell people, hey, here's a package I wrote, and you need to have such plugins installed.
Exactly. So if you right-click on the package, then go to the edit, the last one, touch it, and then go to the workflows tab. That's where you can add workflows that you want to add in here, and make that simple so that we add exactly the workflow that we run. before. So let's select simple in here, and just select the last one. Great, simple. Select it. You have to checkbox because you can add multiple at once, and then hit select. You could also select complete folders if you hit the folder button. You can see, well, in our case, we selected a single workflow. That workflow does not call any other workflow, so there are no dependencies to other workflows. But if you remember, there is that one action that it calls, the here symbol in the schema, and that will be now automatically included in the actions. And this action calls a lot of other actions, so a lot of stuff is in there now as well. Interesting part, if you go to the used plugins, it will also show you that, well, it uses stuff from the vCenter plugin. Okay. So all the dependencies are within the package. It depends a bit on how you want to structure your packages. The good thing, it might be able to, you can put all the dependencies in there, give it to a customer or a friend of yours, and then you can import it, has all the dependencies with that. Of course, if it depends heavily on library workflows, we are doing here in that example, then that would not be needed, because when he installs the plugin, he has the library workflows in there.
Okay. So can I define things that he would be able to change and not be able to change? Like I could tell him this is a workflow that will always create VMs in a data store that I assign to you, for example.
Yeah, that's a very good question and a very tricky question. So you can, first of all, you could lock up the workflows when you save and close this one here. So that's now package definition. And then if you right-click on the package, you can see there's the first one, export package. That's now how you get the package into a single zip file called with the .package. And then there is an edit contents checkbox in here. If you deselect that, then if he imports the workflow, he would not be able to edit this workflow. That means it's not a, well, it's used that for the workflows that are shipped with the plugins that they cannot be edited, because otherwise it would help our support team to support them for customers. It does not provide you from looking into the details of the workflow, and you always can duplicate the workflow and then edit a duplicate of the workflow. So it's not sort of a mechanism that completely locks out functionality. The thing is, we will come to that in a second. Yeah. For the attributes that you see in there, that is something you cannot lock into or put into the package, because they are environmental specific. So the data store that you selected, your data store 1, has a certain managed object ID in your vCenter. If you import that package to a different Orchestrator server, which is connected to a different vCenter server,
it will not be.
It will not be the same.
But assuming same environments, like enterprise environments, I'm just giving it, a task for someone to, and this way I'm not giving them full access to the vCenter. I'm giving them access. In this case, all these values for the attributes, they are environmental specific. So when they run the workflow, well, they get the same form and have to input these data again. If you want to have some stuff, parameters or values for workflow parameters that should go in the package, typically like, I don't know, default values for how long to wait, something like that, that you can either literally hard code in the workflow, if it's a plain data type, like a string, a Boolean, or a number, because that can be written into the workflow, or you can use so-called configuration elements for that, for environmental specific one. But that's a bit more. I know I went from 0 to 1,000.
Yeah.
All right, so let's come back. We were able to create a VM.
Let's create another one. Okay. Run the workflow again, because I want to show you something very useful. Right-click, start last workflow run, and it pre-fills the form
with everything I
put everything you put in there, except if you have secure string inputs or passwords or so. Okay, security reasons. Okay, just the same thing. Cancel that one. If you right-click on the workflow token, or press Control R, right-click, run again, and it's the same functionality. Okay, hit just submit or next to see that it's the name intentionally. Okay. Right, very good. Sharp eye.
So this one should tell me you kind of doing it wrong.
So you can see in the background, when you go back to vCenter, you can see try to create one, it already exists. So the error comes in vCenter, does not do it, for the workflow token. First of all, you can see it's marked in deep red where it failed, which is very helpful. And if you go to the variables tab, there's that last line with the description, that's the exception. Again, it depends on the plugin, how it handles that, but typically it takes the error message from the underlying system. So the vCenter plugin will show you the error message from vCenter. So very important, in that exception, at the very end in the parentheses, you can see dynamic script module name, blah, 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 VMware task end number 20. This shows you exactly the location in the workflow, including the line number after the number in the script where it failed. So actions are bundled, well, like JavaScript functions that are called here. So if you double click on that, it jumps on the actions. Again, double click on here, it jumps to the action. And if you go into the scripting here, and then scroll down a bit and search line number 20.
How do you know which line it is?
It's shown here.
There we go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not on the left-hand side. Yeah. You can see here a throw is the exception, and it will get the error message from the task, so from vCenter. So this now is the line that was responsible for your workflow to fail. That it originally is vCenter that let the task fail, that's something you, of course, have to dig into from the semantics of your workflow. But these error messages, they always contain exactly the line of code in your workflow or the element in your workflow where the error came from.
Okay, so this is where I can use my back button to get back.
Exactly, yeah. Try again, and then you should be back to your token.
Very nice.
Works in most cases. Very nice.
The scripting for all of these, it's always JavaScript.
That's always JavaScript. No other way to do that. That's just for historical reasons, or because technically the workflows get compiled into Java classes, executed in, or Java objects, classes to be executed by the runtime engine. And JavaScript for that is just a Mozilla Reno engine available.
All right. Well, I've gotten to the point where I can play with it a lot. And I realize that you don't have a lot of time with us because we need to get you to the airport by 5. So I will let you, if you want, we can go over a little over what you presented at the VMUX. Maybe like a condensed version, maybe like something we can do in 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because now I think most people, if they've never touched it, they can come in and get it working to the point that they're dangerous, right? They can do things in decent. But you have a lot of...
There's that delete virtual machine in there, so talking about getting dangerous.
But you have a lot of more pointers in there that people will find out as they play with. And if we continue in this manner, we will never get to them.
This is true. Okay. Yeah. Very, very good point. Fair point. So let's start first with sort of the end of my task. So if you get to that point and you want to learn more, dig deeper into Orchestrator, we have a lot of resources available that you can use. Some people prefer books, some people prefer online trainings, whatever. So we need to write a new browser and a lot of different tabs. So the first thing, books that are available, if you Google on Amazon for Orchestrator, the first one, or second edition, make sure to pick the 2015. I think there is a newer one out there, second edition. You find it. It's from the same author. So. Daniel Langenhardt, and he has 2 books about Orchestrator. One, the cookbook, is more some recipe style, but very extensive. It covers a lot of different use cases, far beyond just automating virtual machines. So there are recipes in there for sending emails, interacting with other external systems, and so on. Very, very useful. And then the other one was Orchestrator Essentials, I think. That is more the getting started one. Both very recommended. If you look
Same guy,
yeah. If you look for Orchestrator, there's another one from Cody Bunch.
Yeah.
But that's quite outdated because that was for version 4, Orchestrator 4.
Even Cody has told me that book is no longer that relevant.
It's not relevant. Okay, then if you want to have official VMware training, VMware training, data center automation. Not sure if they put VRO as tag in there. Yeah, that's it, the first one. Data center automation with vRealize Orchestrator and Power CLI. So that's instructor-led, 5-day training.
Yeah.
That is really focused on using Orchestrator and Power CLI as a vSphere administrator. There are some other courses out there from VMware, like Cloud Extensibility, something that focus on using Orchestrator in a vRealize automation context. So how to use it to extend your blueprint definitions and your XaaS services. Cloud Extensibility. Yeah, exactly. Cloud orchestration and extensibility. That also covers a lot of Orchestrator, but it's really focused and almost only useful if you have a vRealize automation environment. And you look at Orchestrator in that context. The other one is much broader because that is designed for a vSphere administrator to automate their day-to-day tasks, to make their life easier. So it covers a lot of details about the vCenter API, like Managed Object Browser that we have and other tools that are available. And then use the vCenter API from Power CLI as well as Orchestrator. It's a course that is really focused on the target group of vSphere administrators. And it works perfectly because it starts from 0 with Orchestrator and Power CLI as well. So really, it's a very good entry-level course. The other one with VRA almost expects you to have at least some exposure with Orchestrator already. But it covers some more, let's say, advanced things like exception handling. But it's not that helpful when you have just a vSphere environment because all the labs and the examples are based on examples how to use Orchestrator, call it from VRA. Okay, then another one on Plural side. There's a VMware Orchestrator training as well, third-party training.
Who gives that one?
Yeah, very good one. You might know him.
Is it a guy with a beard? No, I call you. Thought it was yours.
No. I'm not sure. No picture of the author, but I know Nick very well. So
okay,
this is a very good also. Introduction to Orchestrator, self-paced training. Very good, very recommended. How long is the whole thing? Do they have that on their homepage somewhere? 2 hours, so yeah. You were asking.
I wonder if it's still ahead.
Yeah, so very good one as well. By the way, the training, VMware, the official training is quite new, version 7, and also that from 2016, so quite new. Cool. All these basic concepts, if you find references that explain how it works with the Orchestrator, workload token, parameter binding, these things haven't changed since many, many years in Orchestrator. So all these key concepts that you need to start develop your workflows, they are always the same, no matter what version of Orchestrator exactly. You can find some older references. We will see that in a second. The concepts are still the same.
So that's a good point. If I go on the MTN and somebody posts a workflow that they created, will it normally work?
Yes. Of course, the workflows deal a lot with the APIs of the endpoints and depend on the object structure. So if you have APIs that change a lot, like the VRA APIs over time, then these older workflows will likely not work, or they would work, but they are not relevant anymore.
Right. They would run in Orchestrator, they wouldn't do what they're meant to do.
Yeah, like that. But for vCenter, all the stuff, the tasks that happen with vCenter API didn't change or is backward compatible.
Yeah. So they'll probably never disable it because it would break all
it's of course different for new functionality, like when we introduce storage data store cluster, that's a new object type, and you have to deal differently when using data store clusters versus individual data stores, but still workflows that deal with data stores, they still work.
Cool.
Good. Then we have.
These are all great ways to start.
Absolutely. Let's continue. There are more great ways to start. So if we go to tinyurl.com, that's the newest one, /vRO videos.
Oh, nice.
One finger typing. That's a YouTube playlist from Brian Waters, one of our lead trainers for all these automation trainings.
Look at this.
And he
That's
put
amazing.
up an amazing playlist of, if you sum that up, another several hours of free videos that really goes, well, like we did, installing, configuring vRO, running the client, developing first workflows, and February 2018, so just refreshed. Some of the stuff, I think he even updated the screenshots and the screen recordings. There's might be some older versions of these videos available as well, but they're still all valid because these concepts haven't changed. So a lot of really, really good stuff in there as well. Then let's open a new tab. We have a lot of material.
Yeah, yes, I'm happy.
So for that, search for vBrownBag and automation.
Automation or?
Automation, yeah. And then click the first link there.
Oh, yeah, I'm on track.
Go back, yeah, the first link there. That's from 2013. Even before your time,
yeah, I wasn't involved.
Mr. Young Man.
At all.
Anyway, back then, they did a good sessions about, well, Power CLI and a bunch of Orchestrator. I would say forget the VCAC one, because VCAC 6, so much have changed, they are likely not relevant anymore. But I'm sure, at least for the Orchestrator ones, except the install and configure, because that also is much, much simpler now, so you don't, well, we have done it in, I don't know, 30 minutes before. Back then we needed a complete hour of explaining just that part. But the Orchestrator ones for the introduction and the more advanced ECO, they are still valid because these concepts haven't changed. The screen might look a bit different, the client looks a bit different, but the concepts are the same. I'm not sure about the Power CLI stuff. They also, of course, advanced a lot since then, but I guess a lot of the things are still valid. And the good thing, or the one that I mostly recommend, is this use ECO to manage Active Directory and Exchange. The workflows that he shows there, they might not work exactly in the current versions, but it gives you an idea about the power of Orchestrator. Sean here uses Orchestrator to automate and manage stuff in their IT environment, real-world use cases that are not at all related to VMware administration. And with all the different plugins that we have, like the PowerShell plugin, we have an Active Directory plugin, we have plugins for generic REST calls, SOAP calls, plugins for SSH to call out to whatever system has a SSH login. You can use Orchestrator to automate so broad level of tasks in your environment that's really, really powerful. And they used it, literally to automate, manage Active Directory and Exchange tasks, which, by the way, is something that comes up very often even in customer environments. Because if you build that automation with Orchestrator, of course, Orchestrator does not talk directly to Exchange, but you use the PowerShell plugin to call out to PowerShell scripts and wrap them using exception handling, using validation, wrap all that stuff up so that even this call out and quite complex architecture, your workflow calls out to a PowerShell script, which likely does some PowerShell remoting to the Exchange server and so on. It gets into a very, very reliable state because of all the error handling around it and the functionality around it. And you get all the benefits that we talked before that comes with vRO out of the box, like the fact that you have a good history of who called the workflow, what was the output of the workflow. So it brings a lot of benefit. And then when you add VRA on top of that, you can use these workflows not only for you as administrator to go into the client and click the button to start the workflow, but you can even expose them into the VRA self-service portal.
You could get to a point where you say, I need to create a VDI for a certain person. And it's like, I would create a workflow that even creates the user, assigns them a mailbox, creates a VDI, adds them as administrator.
Very, very common and very, very common thing that customers do with VRA, this user onboarding. Cool.
All right. When do we go into YouTube and just put Joerg Lew?
You could do that as well.
I wonder. There's a lot of videos. That's why I'm not kidding. Like,
I'm not sure. Yeah, the most interesting ones. I guess I didn't do.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, I did. Well, that's quickly. That's the vBrownBag session in Barcelona last year. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, just about version control. How you get your workflows into Git in the current versions. Might be irrelevant in the next few versions because we get a better out-of-the-box functionality, but still in there. Yeah. The other one, 2016, that's still relevant. That's about basic. When you think about Orchestrator in a large-scale environment, so you deal with multiple vCenter servers, lots of hundreds of hosts, perhaps, and thousands of virtual machines. Different strategies that you can do there, and then of course we have the
this is the same one. This is our interview. You talk to VMworld TV.
Yeah, that is some short ones.
This is like you look different over here.
Yeah. Okay. I usually look in that way once a year. I'm not that big fan of getting to a haircut.
But this is what, like 2013 or something like that? Or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's just introduction of what Orchestrator is. Same with the ready 4 years ago. That's the important one. That's the one that I recommended, where we do some parts perhaps. Is the 7 deadly sins. That's not related directly to Orchestrator. That's just my experience that I have over many customer projects over the last bunch of years. Pitfalls that are there when you try to automate and introduce automation into your IT environment.
Okay.
Yeah. What else do we have?
I know the website, so let's talk about the websites, like the VCO portal.
Oh yeah, that's my blog, yeah. I post together with some friends about what you can do with Orchestrator. And there is another one that's even older. So if you go to vcoteam.info.
When someone comes to these sites, like, should I just try to go from the back, or what?
No, typically you go to that because you find stuff.
Yeah, because Google shows
it up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same for vcoteam.info.
But if you look at categories, if I were to tell someone, hey, go there and start,
I don't know,
start
some
more examples.
Just this remark I got for Sato because I got a request about. Well, Sato has a REST API. Would it be possible to connect, integrate it? I think we put out an example in past.
Right. I do see you have like a bunch of examples.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, get started.
Same, I think same is for .info. Yeah, they also have a lot of examples and links and articles out there. But usually you either subscribe to the RSS feed, you get the new things in your feed reader, or you find them via Google.
Who runs VCO team?
That's Christoph and Berg, colleagues. And they also have, as you can see, a lot of stuff.
A lot of content. Yeah, learn VCO. Look at that.
Yeah.
Thousands of hours.
From basic one to really cool advanced stuff. But there are more and more.
There seems to be few people, but the few people that do it, they put out a lot of content.
Yeah, it grows quite a lot because of all the all vRealize automation projects. There is some part where Orchestrator plays an important role. So you will find when you look for Orchestrator and VMware and workflow examples, very often you can find workflow examples of using Orchestrator in the VRA context. But of course, for the JavaScript tasks and the way the workflows are built, that's still valid even if you just use it for regular automation outside of VRA context. It's still helpful. Another important thing, right, that I want to show you is if you go to VRO API. Yeah. So that's a community project from some guys, I think, in the Netherlands. Also very active in the VMAX, and they just took the VRO API Explorer and sort of translated that to HTML. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how refresh and actual these links are, but they they get the information directly from the plugins. So it's the same as you see in the VRO API. And then another thing, well, we have our sample exchange, code.vmware.com. That's where, for all the different VMware solutions, you can find some examples. There's the sample exchange there. And then on the left-hand side, you can have some filters for VRO package, for example, VRO workflows, VRO packages, 74. So many workflow examples there. So a lot of cool stuff, ready-to-use solutions. If it's important thing, go back to the Orchestrator client. If you download an individual workflow, typically with a .workflow at the end and a single file, you just right-click on a folder and then hit the import workflow button. Of course, one of your own folders, likely. That's a package. That's the different one. Package. Your workflow. For the individual workflows, sometimes they might be mixed up. I'm not sure. Return Boolean from such string. Sounds interesting. Download, and then you get. It's also a package. Yeah. So technically, workflows typically are deployed as packages, and when you export it, you typically, like we did, build a package, even if it's just a single workflow. If it's really an individual workflow, you will have a file ending with a ... workflow at the end. And that you import by right-clicking on a folder in your VRO client, and then select the import workflow one. If you JS. Oh, okay, that might be JavaScript that's used in. So that's in an action.
So I might as well just grab it from text.
Yeah, right. That's the other one where you.
I downloaded.
We would have to.
This one.
Oh yeah, as you can see, they're used in the guest script manager. So in the other package, on top of the list, because that's by far the most used package. That's an example. Use the guest script manager to get into other virtual machines and replace the certificates on top of it.
Where is that guest script manager?
That's an additional package. So yeah. So if you find individual workflows with a .workflow at the end, right-click on the folder, select import workflow in the client. If you go to the VRO package, it's the topmost one because it's you can see the downloads. It's by far the most used ones. That's a package file, typically.
Thank you, CD Kanini.
Yeah, that's Christoph. And the package file you import exactly in the same packaging area where we were before. Okay.
Let's say I'm going to make another folder.
Yeah. No, make a package. Yeah, go there and then select import package. I think it's the first one. Package. And you select your package file. If you filter for packages.
Downloads.
And then filter for packages. You might not have that many. And then open. And then you can see if you import the package. Of course, packages are signed, so you can check about the certificates. And now you can get a list, see a list of all these workflows that are in the package. And on the right-hand side are the ones that are in your server with their corresponding versions. And you will see that a lot of them are new because that's the point of the package. All the ones that come with the library, they are defined in the package as well for completeness, but you already have them, so it's not going to import them. Just import that. Then let's keep this view open for a minute. Go to the guest script manager, guest script package, because it takes a while for the client to reload afterwards. Because you have to check where it puts it in the folders. Because the folder is in the package, right? So that's the one. It's in directly in guest script manager. And if you go to workflow back, you see the new folder, guest script manager, the topmost one.
But it's interesting that you can also get stuff in other folders that
Yeah,
are not
absolutely.
there.
Folders are not locked. That's just complete open. It's just sort of best practice or convention to build your own folders.
So he's saying I could create a new workflow and add those JavaScript.
For example, use them. So the guest script manager is a quite powerful thing. It uses the guest operations API of vCenter to get into guest with a machine guest without using the VM network. So that works despite all firewalls, everything. You still, of course, have to authenticate against vCenter.
Yeah.
That is vCenter plugin is doing that, and you have to authenticate against the guest operating system. That's one of the input parameters in there. And these guest operations, there are workflows for that in the workflow library, but that's for individual tasks. So the guest script manager provides a lot of wrapping around that, a lot of more functionality, so that you can sort of define, well, that's a script that I want to upload and then run in the guest operating system. And the guest script manager package makes that for you. Otherwise, you would have to call the first workflow to copy the file to guest and then run it.
I know. Mm-hmm. In Power CLI, at some point, you need to sometimes you need to run
script.
Yeah. Well, that's now.
The same API,
it used to be that you had to do like a PSSH or P client. I can't remember. There was a particular SSH client that you could script and then send a command. It was a pain in the butt.
Okay. And another one. We use just the VMTM or communities.vmware.com. Look for Orchestrator, VMTM Orchestrator. Because there's one section in the VMTM communities, and that's the first one.
Yeah, I imagine this has a lot of good information in it.
And that has a lot of good information, and as you can see, if you scroll down a bit, quite all the questions get somehow answered in some way. And we have people, if you scroll down, from VMware that are even developers that are very, very active. So from the VRO development team that are very, very active in these community forums. So that's a very good point. One very important thing, if you scroll up a bit, to the topmost, not to oversee, the document section here also contains a lot of other different workflow examples and also technical previews of plugins. So whenever plugins are released by our Orchestrator engineers, the official one have to, well, they are bundled or with the VRO release cycle, so it takes some time to get them released. But if they have some bug fixes, typically they put out technical previews, which are the same bits and bytes that go into the next version of VRA. So absolutely recommend that as well. You can see there are a lot of examples in there. Really cool stuff like hashes, some JavaScript libraries imported to create hashes and so on.
That's so crazy.
A lot of good stuff. Okay, one more tab.
Keep it going.
Okay. I think it's slack.com. I don't know. The
Slack? You mean like the code?
The code, VMware code.
So
that's VMware code.
VMware code.slack. But I think the actual page to sign up is something else.
That's true.
Yeah, I think if you go to code.
code.vmware.com,
and then you can go to the.
They have somewhere sign in.
Join code here.
Join code. Yeah.
This is right. You send your email, and they'll send you the invite.
Yeah. And that will be your Slack account then as well. And in that Slack community, there are a lot of sections about generic vSphere APIs, but there are also channels for Power CLI and for Orchestrator and for vRealize automation, by the way, which are very, very active. So absolutely recommend that as well. All sorts of automation for people who are more used to the more interactive style rather than posting a question on the communities and then get some answer there. Okay. One more thing. There is more.
I know. Go ahead.
Yeah.
We haven't even said who to follow on Twitter. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my. One more thing for JavaScript, since
good point.
When you work with Orchestrator,
you learn JavaScript.
Eventually you will have to dig into JavaScript. You can go somewhat far just using existing workflows and rewiring them together without a lot of coding, but eventually you will find yourself in a situation where you need to do something where you don't have an existing action workflow for that, and then you need JavaScript. But by far, you don't have at all to be a JavaScript expert. It's very, very basic, and the amount of JavaScript that you build typically is not that much because of the structure that you have workflows with a lot of different elements. Your individual JavaScript lines of code are typically very small pieces. It's one function and, I don't know, perhaps 10 or 20 lines of code at a time. And you don't need to do all the fancy stuff or any frameworks in JavaScript at all. It's just basic, pure JavaScript language. And for that, there are a lot of JavaScript books out there, but most of them focus on using JavaScript to develop websites, web pages. And that's not at all what we do. But there's one book that differs from there. So if you go to www.elo, when JavaScript. I feel like it's the first time that I use a keyboard. Oh. It's .NET, I think. Just Google for Eloquent JavaScript. I think it's .NET. Yeah, Eloquent JavaScript.net. So that is one book that I absolutely recommend. It's available to buy as a paper version, but it's also available online. I think if you scroll down, you can.
Yeah, I was reading it. You can download it online here.
Yeah, you can get it for free, but you also get the paperback one. The one that you can read for free here is very, very cool because also the paperback one, they focus on JavaScript as a language. So exactly what you need in Orchestrator. Only in the very later part, it is browser-based. So only part 2 is browser-based. You can ignore that one. But the first part really focuses on JavaScript as a programming language. And if you read it online, or read the book and go to the web page, all the exercises that he puts in there to learn JavaScript, you can do it directly in the browser. So it's a really, really very, very efficient way to learn JavaScript. And it's, at least from my perspective, one of the best written programming languages books that I've ever read. So really, really good one. Very good. Absolutely recommend it. And yeah, there's more.
Yes, go ahead.
How to find that? Well, you can Google for Orchestrator Coding Design Guide. That's likely the best way. Yeah. Then hit the first button. There's only one version. That's an official white paper that we published on VMware homepage.
Oh, that's not too old.
That's not too old, and the concepts in there again are still very, very valid. It is linked on the official Orchestrator documentation page. So when you go to the VMware documentation section, or you get the installation guide for Orchestrator, there is a workflow development guide, which is an introduction to workflow development. But it's it really explains more or less the mechanics of Orchestrator. I would rather, for starting, recommend the books that we went through to the very beginning. Yeah. But in addition, we also published a white paper which covers some design guidelines for Orchestrator. So how you do variable naming, how you structure your workflows to make them testable, to make them scalable, to make them reliable. Just a bunch of best practices from the field. So these are a bunch of VMware colleagues and myself from professional services. We have a lot of field experience in developing workflows. We put together some examples there. Good information. So that's also an absolutely recommended read for VRO. Let me think of more. Twitter. Yeah, Twitter, sure. So Twitter, I guess it's just twitter.com and then hashtag VRO.
Hashtag VRO.
Hashtag VRO, where you can find all the people with the blogs that we've seen, the people contributing. That's easy. So hashtag VRO.
That's more than I think Brad will be able to get done by tomorrow. So. Brad, 2 weeks. 2 weeks till your vBrownBag session on Bureau. No, George, this was amazing. Mm-hmm. I'll stop the recording here.
Yeah, makes sense. As I mentioned, for the Linux sessions that we had before, most of the other parts of the Orchestrator, the best practices in automation, are quite the same as I covered in that YouTube video. 7 deadly since the Linux session that I presented in the Netherlands. Okay,